Events tonight. It's that kind of crazy week. I'm Drew Gazel. I'm here at Capitol Council. I want to thank everybody for being here on behalf of Clark. I'm not going to give a long introduction. I think at this point we all know Clark, what he stands for, the race he's running, his work ethic, and couldn't be more excited and prouder to support a friend. And thanks to everyone again for taking a little bit of time tonight to come by. So Clark, I'll let you take it from here, man.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I promised Drew I wouldn't go longer than 45 minutes. But I know everybody has places to go. No, I'll just give you. I know everybody is curious about the state of the race, so that's just primarily what I'll talk about for just a minute. From an anecdotal standpoint, I feel like we have all the momentum on our side. Just to give you a rundown of the last week, on Tuesday there was a candidate forum, and it was with bankers, and that's French Hill's territory. He's a former banker, and he would only agree to appear if he could be guaranteed to go second and for there to be no opportunity for rebuttal. And so I still agreed under those conditions, and we did that on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, our local ABC affiliate, in conjunction with Roby Brock, who does our state politics Sunday morning talk show, they invited us to participate in an hour-long debate on ABC, and they preempted the national broadcaster. We're going to broadcast it live, and French turned that down. And when they did that, they couldn't put it on live TV in primetime, but they still gave me an hour to myself. So we had maybe the first candidate forum in United States history with only one candidate.
Did you have the cardboard cutout?
Yeah, we had some fun with it. We sent out a press release afterward that I was the unanimous winner. On Thursday we had a press conference. The junior senator from our fair state, Mr. Tom Cotton, his PAC has been sending mail out to people in our district, and it got to a point where I felt like it had to be called out. It's all about immigration. The first mail piece, on one side it had two people. You couldn't see their face, but you could see their forearms, and they had brown skin, and they had tattoos, and they were holding guns. And in fact, one of the people you could tell was African American, which there's no explanation for having that on an open border mailer except just explicit race baiting. So that was the first piece, and they had another piece like that, and then just week before last they had a piece that featured Kate Steinle, who was a young woman murdered in Northern California, and her family has asked that she not be used for political purposes. And this is the mail. It is a third party, but it's not some anonymous third party. It's Tom Cotton's PAC. And so we had a press conference saying this is unacceptable. The PAC, of course, stood by the mail, and French Hill offered no comment in response to that. And then on Friday, Mike Pence was in town, and believe it or not, it was actually a net positive for our campaign.
I believe it.
Yeah. For one thing, just to start, they had a couple hundred people at their rally. The media pictures was just a big empty room. There's no enthusiasm whatsoever on their side. Of course, all the media interviewed me about it, and our message, which was my genuine response, was that I was excited when I heard that Mike Pence was coming, because it's a full recognition on their side that we have a real competitive race. And then it got even better. For one thing, it's just indicative of him not showing up for debates. It was a free event, but you had to register ahead of time. And they started culling their list. If they found out that you were a different political persuasion, they would cancel your invitation to go to the event. And our NBC affiliate decided they just wanted to follow me with whatever I was doing during the rally. And it just so happened that I was knocking doors in Conway, which is a town about 30 minutes outside of Little Rock, for y'all not familiar with the area. And I couldn't have drawn it up any better. It was actually raining. So they had a big fancy rally with an empty room with a bunch of suits, and I was knocking on doors in the rain. And so that was the contrast, but it's really just a contrast in the entire way that we're running our campaigns. So we feel that's all anecdotal. I've been to all the county fairs. Some of those county fairs I go to expecting to, get a little honest feedback from people, but I've had a positive response across the board. It is reflecting in the poll numbers as well. Every poll that our campaign has run, it starts off with the head-to-head within the margin of error, and we still have a name ID deficit that we are in the process of making up. That will be, by the time November 6th gets here, people are going to be tired of hearing our name. But every single poll that I'm aware of, run by our campaign, the media, or whatever, after there's fair message testing on both sides, I'm up at the end of the message test either 2 to 6 points. And the lesson there is that if we get our message out, then we will win. And so that's what we're in the process of trying to do. Is it is an expensive proposition, as you all know, and that's what we're trying to do, is to get that message out. And we are meeting people where they are, at their doors, and the message that we are delivering are the issues that people actually care about in their lives every day. If you work in this country full time, they like to talk about the state of the economy and the stock market, and that's great when the stock market goes up. But for a lot of people, that has no effect on their lives. It's all about, if you work, then you ought to be able to afford to put food on the table and the medicine that your family needs. And that's just not the case for too many people. And of course, the issue that we're talking about more than any other issue is healthcare. For a whole bunch of reasons, and I'm not going to give a long speech, and you all know about it, but protections for people with pre-existing conditions. In my congressional district, 50% of non-elderly adults have a pre-existing condition. So if it's not you, and there's a 50% chance it is you, it's someone in your immediate family. And we have been up on TV talking about that, and we will continue to do that before November 6th. And people say to me sometimes, they're like, "Clark, you talk too much about healthcare." And for me, it's like the opposite of The Godfather, because for me, healthcare is not a political issue. It's a very personal issue, and I know it is for every family in Central Arkansas. And when he goes up and says, "I've always stood for protections for people with pre-existing conditions," people know that's not true. They know that's not true, and so our message is resonating, and that's why I know if we do get that message out, then we'll win. So that's why I cannot thank y'all enough for being here tonight and being a part of this. One guy on our team says, "I am a cheap date," because the dollars go a lot further in Little Rock than they do in other media markets. And so if you are having questions, or people that you're in conversations with are having questions about where to invest their dollars over the next 6 weeks and where it can be the most effective, this is a race where, number one, the dollars go further, and number two, that dollar may or may not be the difference between us getting our message out and picking up this seat. So it does make a huge difference, and I know everybody here is a political veteran, so I cannot thank y'all enough. I mean, I do believe I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think we were at a historically critical point in the history of our country. I do have young kids. My kids are 9 and 6, and people ask me about, like, "Clark, between having had cancer last year and your young children, I'm surprised that you're doing this." And my response to them is, those are the reasons why I am doing it. Because we need someone who has the healthcare experience that I've had in office making those decisions. And we need someone who understands that for our kids, we have to earn the future of this country. We have to get out and work for it. We cannot take it for granted. And my grandmother actually played a significant role in my decision to run. She called me when I was trying to decide whether to run, and she said, "You have to do this for your country." And she was born in 1921, so she grew up in the Great Depression. She's 97 years old. World War II, civil rights, Watergate, Vietnam, and everything in between and since. So when she says, now is when we need you, it just puts in perspective what's at stake. And it's not about, obviously my family is the most important thing in the world to me, but it's not just about my family. It's about every family in Arkansas and every family in this country. And we're going to do our part to take back the future of that country with this election. I feel great about it. We're going to pull it out on November 6th, and I can't thank y'all enough for being a part of it.
Yeah. Amen.
All right.
How much does the Arkansas business community think about the fact that we have like about an 85% chance that we're going to have a Democratic House, and Arkansas needs to have at least one Democratic federal official to be able to help deliver a message?
Yeah, that is an argument that I make to people. And I know we got a lot of Blue Dog alums here, and Blue Dog, I am Blue Dog endorsed candidate, and I will be joining that caucus if I do get elected. And I tell them, like, that's where all the legislation is going to go through if the Democrats have a majority, which is what we expect. And so it's important to have someone in those conversations. And right now, we got plenty of people to participate on the other side. We don't have anybody to participate on our side. So that is an argument that I make to people.
What about Trump's trade wars? Is that causing concern? Are you able to connect with farmers and others who are being hurt by that?
Yeah, I mean, ag is the #1 industry in Arkansas. It's about a quarter of our economy. And even if you're not a farmer, selling equipment or financing farm operations or storing rice in a grain silo or whatever the case might be. I mean, it's a huge part of our economy. And, you know, I have found that farmers also, they don't like the subsidy for a couple reasons. Number one is if they change their market structures, it's going to be a long-term effect, and the one-time subsidy is not going to make a difference. The other thing is the farmers, they don't want a subsidy. They just want to earn their living. And they're frustrated by that. You know, it depends. It has not been a wholesale fallout from supporting the president, in my experience. But I think the more and more time goes on, the more it will be. Obviously, I hope it's as much as possible before November 6th. I do think the latest round of tariffs that have an impact on consumer goods as much as, you know, commodities, that's just going to make it resonate all that much further. So it does have more of an impact. Soybeans is our #1 row crop, and that's, you know, one of the price of soybeans went down 14% on the day they announced the first round of tariffs, and so it is a real impact in Arkansas. And people talk to me about it all the time, and I do think it will help us.
Good.
Yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
When you're elected, which committees are you gonna have to get on?
Yeah, I'm trying not to put the cart before the horse too much. But, you know, healthcare and education are the issues that I kind of talk about the most and that I care about. And so if I could make that happen, that would be awesome, but I'll just be glad to be here.
Your opponent, he went up on the air like in June, right?
He did.
I mean, he's been up for a long time. Has that been consistent and or what is his, I'm assuming that's because of his name ID and.
Yeah, they went up the first week of June, and it wasn't even a positive ad. It was a total attack on me. Our primary was May 22nd, and so starting the first Monday in June, which I think was June 3rd, they were up, and they were up the entire month of June. We had a little response piece to the attack that they had, and but we were outspent 9-1 that month. And we actually had a poll at the beginning of June and then a poll at the beginning of July. We didn't set it up that way, but it turned out to be a great tracking poll. And the margin on both of those polls, for example, was 4.9, and I started down 4 in both of those polls. And then we pretty much were both off in July. Starting late July, the bankers and the U.S. Chamber came in with TV spots for him, both positive for him. And HMP has come in with some digital ads that are negative on French. That's been all the third-party activity to this point. French went up on TV probably. We went up 1 week after him. I think he went up around August 15th. But that was a low-level buy. It was about 350 points a week. The next week we matched him at 350, and then we've actually kind of outbought him a little bit since that time. So we've been up for about 5 weeks. We're at 750 points now. And I think we're 750 for one more week, and then we're going to transition to 1,000 after that.
And Clark, can you just walk us through I mean, Trump won the district in November 8th, 2016, but Hillary won Pulaski County.
Right.
Trump won White County and Lonoke County.
Right.
But what percentage of the district was that?
He won the entire congressional district by about 10 points.
10.
Yeah. And you look at Connor Lamb's district, for example, which he won by 20. And, you know, no two races are different. That was an open seat, and I'm running against an incumbent, but we have a much lower threshold to overcome. So the congressional district consists of 7 counties. It's one big blue county in the middle with Pulaski County where Little Rock is, and then 6 red counties. So, I mean, obviously our strategy is to cut into the margin in those 6 counties. The last time this congressional district was really competitive in 2014, the Democratic candidate got collectively 31% in those 6 counties. So that's daunting because it's a low number, but it's also a low hurdle for us to clear. And I don't need to win any of those counties in order to win the race. I have to get about 38 to 40% in those counties. And number one, we're working hard in those counties. I have an office in Faulkner County. And as I mentioned, I've been to all 6 of those county fairs, and we're showing up. And I know we have a lot of Arkansans in the room. Retail politics still matters in Arkansas. They want to look you in the eye and shake your hand. And so that combined with the margin of difference that you've seen in special elections since November of 2016 across the country, I think we can easily move from 31 to 38 to 40. And then, of course, the other part of the strategy is to run up the score in Pulaski County. You know, I don't spend a lot of time on the campaign trail talking about the president, but he's doing what he can to help us run up the score in Pulaski County. It's not just that Pulaski County is the most Democratic county in the district, it's also that Little Rock is the most Democratic part of Pulaski County. So if we could isolate a turnout driver just in Little Rock, that would be outstanding, and it just so happens that we have a highly competitive mayor's race in Little Rock. There are 5 candidates. There are 3 that really have a good shot. It's a nonpartisan race. Technically, they're all 3 well-known Democrats. Little Rock itself is about 40% African American, and one of those 3 candidates is African American. So that's going to be a great. That all of the external factors are lining up as well as they can. Tracy, did you have?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, and you just answered the question about Congressman Lewis really helped your campaign.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind to get out the vote, and hopefully the blacks will come out and vote for you. I think women will.
Yeah, so I mean, we're working hard on that every day. And to me, like the contrast between the Pence rally and when Mr. Lewis came to town, we had about 4 events with Mr. Lewis, and he just came into town in one day. We went to Philander Smith, and we had a room with a capacity of
I
about.
saw it. It's,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, you should see the YouTube video. The speeches were fabulous.
We had a room with about a capacity of about 450. You could literally not breathe in that room. You could not fit another person in that room. We had an overflow room down the hall with 150 people in it, and we turned over 100 people away. Couldn't even fit in the overflow room. And then I had a fundraiser after that, and that was supposed to be an intimate fundraiser with Mr. Lewis, and there were 300 people there. It was the same kind. It was in a historic home in downtown Little Rock, and that was you could not breathe in that room. It probably was the craziest day of my entire life.
Did he enjoy it?
He's the most incredible person.
Yeah.
Every time I thanked him, he would say, "Thank you for what you're doing." And after we left Philander, and I gave that speech, we got in the car, and he goes, "Clark," he's like, "You have inspired me. You have lifted my spirits." And just to hear that from somebody like John Lewis, that in and of itself just means more to me than, makes the whole thing work. Kevin?
Is your opponent ever gonna debate you, or?
We're gonna have one debate, on ATN, which is a PBS, our state PBS public broadcasting station, and, so we are gonna have one debate. It's not gonna air live, we're recording it on Monday afternoon, I think it's October 8th, and I think it'll air a day or 2 after that. So we are going to have that one debate. We do have 15 days of early voting in Arkansas, so early voting starts on October 22nd. So that debate will air about 10 to 12 days before early voting starts. But it's a huge I think, to my knowledge, he's had 2 town halls since he's been in office for 4 years. One was at the Little Rock Chamber, which there's nothing wrong with Little Rock Chamber, but that's clearly a safe home place for him. And the other was a joint town hall with Tom Cotton at 2 o'clock on a weekday. So, I've already made a commitment that I'm gonna have an in-person, he had a telephone town hall in August. So, as you all know, he wasn't up here. So it makes no sense to me to have a telephone town hall in August unless the questions are, set up. But anyway, I've made a commitment to have at least one in-person public forum in the district at least once per month while I'm in Congress. So again, it's just a contrast of the kind of campaigns that we're running. And one of the things I've been saying that I believe is true is that if you refuse to show up, and if the bulk of your campaign as an incumbent is not focused on your record but on misleading attacks on your opponent, then you have a record that you just cannot defend. And I think that's the case with him. And so the more people know about it, the better position we'll be. So we're just trying to educate folks.
Can you tell me about how voter registration has been going? Have you seen trends?
Yeah.
I'm from out of town now, so I don't know.
So we are relying on partners in the C3 world to really be the big drivers on voter registration, like churches and like the Urban League and that sort of thing. So that's one component of it. Another component of it is we do have voter registration drives at every college campus in the congressional district, because for one thing, for kids who are from Central Arkansas, we gotta get them registered, but for kids who are from other places, we're like, your vote will matter here big time. I don't care if you're from Alabama or New Jersey or California, wherever, your vote will make a difference in this race. So we do have an active voter registration drive going on every college campus. But we're, for the registration purposes, we are relying heavily on our C3 partners, but then once early, but that is the beauty of the 15 days of early voting. We're gonna have some major GOTV days, especially on the 2 Saturdays. We're partnering with the NAACP and church organizations just to drive people to the polls.